and welcome to This Week at the Movies. My name is Matt, and if you live east of the Rocky Mountains, you're probably going to have a pretty wintry weekend that may or may not make it possible for you to get to the theaters. But if you are planning to go to theaters, I have a look at a few movie options that you can choose from on this January weekend. So let's dive in. The first of those is Mercy. This is a new one starring Chris Pratt as a detective in the future who is helping to pilot the new Mercy Justice System, which is an AI that does speedy fast trials in like an hour or so and decides whether you did it and your punishment, which is pretty much execution, because these are all murder trials. That AI judge is played by Rebecca Ferguson. When he wakes up or comes to on trial for murdering a wife he didn't even realize was dead until he wakes up, he has just an hour to access everything in the cloud to try to prove his innocence. It's a intriguing concept. We've seen these kind of futuristic law enforcement justice movies before. The best of them probably Minority Report. This one has its moments, tries to get into some newish looking feel and CGI. It's supposed to be set in the near future. In addition to Pratt and Ferguson, who pretty well dominate things, Callie Reese appears in here as Pratt's LAPD partner who's helping him investigate on the outside. Annabelle Wallace appears as his deceased wife, kind of pops in and out. Kylie Rogers as his daughter. And then Chris Sullivan as his sponsor and his wife's friend and work colleague who ends up getting called in for some testimony. Performances are okay. The story is okay. It really, your mileage on this is going to vary depending on how much you're interested in AI and future, and it doesn't really seek to answer any of those deeper questions. It presents the idea that this kind of an AI justice system is deeply flawed, but it doesn't really present a probing question about what would be better or how to overcome those flaws. It certainly gives me pause the way that it looks at a futuristic world where everyone and everything is online and being used to track you. It doesn't really ask any of those questions. There are some questions of police tactics, corruption, the human element. Not really interested in any of that. So there are some bigger questions posed by this that are it's not really interested in. That's probably why it was an early January release. I'm giving it a thumbs neutral. I thought in terms of basic story, I kind of got into it more as we were going on. The ticking clock thing kind of works in its favor. He has 90 minutes. The movie is just a shade over 90 minutes. So that real-time element helps. It's not a bad movie. I just didn't think it was exceptional. The same probably goes for the second movie I'm going to talk about, which is H is for Hawk. This one based on the memoir by Helen MacDonald of the same name, that was about a year in her life when she was saved by the unlikely friendship with a stubborn hawk named Mabel, trying to recover from the loss of her father, who's played by Brendan Gleeson. We see him briefly at the beginning and then in some flashbacks. This is mostly about Claire Foy, who plays Helen. I thought Foy did a nice job in this role. I thought there are some emotional beats. This feels like the kind of personal journey and memoir that really resonates with you on the page, but it's kind of hard to turn into a movie. There aren't a lot of big turning points or big sequences, the kind of things that you need when you're making a three-dimensional film to have it have a little more gravitas and life. It is an interesting exploration of grief. It is an interesting exploration of a different kind of friendship. It definitely has its moments, but for those who are really interested in the crux of this story, I'm thinking the memoir version will probably resonate with you more. I did not mind this movie, but it didn't make a huge impact for me. I am giving this one thumbs neutral as well. It is now playing in wide release. A movie that's in limited release that's new this week is Aerotropia. This one is the story of real people in a fake place. That is the tagline, and that is certainly apt for this movie. It follows an aspiring actress played by Aaliyah Shotkat, who is basically a role player on a secret military base installation that is used for training to create real life combat simulations. They give the country a fake name. This is set back in 2006 during the Bush years and the war in Iraq. They have named this country Atropia, but it's supposed to be essentially a stand-in for Iraq. And you have units that are going to train. Shawkat is among a group of either refugees from the area or actors of that background who have been asked to play these parts in these simulations. She ends up coming across a simulated terrorist played by Callum Turner, who is actually a U.S. soldier who was at the front and now is back participating in these training activities. They have a romantic connection. They end up falling in love. Some stuff happens. Look, this seems like it would be an interesting idea for a movie. At times, it seems like it really wants to explore this concept, especially at the beginning, giving you the setup of this being a real life war simulation, dropping you back in 2006, doesn't want to make a comment on this kind of combat thing. And then at the end, it talks to you about the same base is now being used to train people in Russian type incursion. But it doesn't really have a lot to say about that. It doesn't really go in depth on that. The film is written and directed by Haley Gates. Mostly, it wants to be about this romance and comedy for a large part of the middle, and the comedy kind of hits, and the romance kind of works, and it all kind of peters out hard in the third act. This one made a debut last year at the Sundance Film Festival, got picked up now, is getting released a little bit wider. It is in technically a limited release coming out this week. It may or may not be in the theater in your area. I'm giving this one a mild thumbs down. I didn't mind it. I thought the cast was okay. It was a decent enough watch. It's not super long, but it just felt like I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to take from it. It didn't feel invested enough in any of the potential ideas or on-screen stories that it was trying to tell. So as you can tell, it's been a little bit of an underwhelming week for new releases coming into theaters. But before we go, I do want to shout out a movie that is making its wide release finally. Unfortunately, it was shut out during the Academy Award nominations, which were announced on Thursday. As we go through the next few weeks and months leading up to the awards, I'll look at different races as part of this show. But The Testament of Anne Lee, finally now coming full on into theaters. If you caught my review I dropped when it released in limited release on Christmas Day and in the episode leading up to Christmas, you will know that I was really taken with this. It comes from the writing team of Brady Corbet and Mona Fastfold. Fastfold served as the director here. Amanda Seyfried, the lead, playing Anne Lee. A great cast includes Louis Pullman, Thomasin McKenzie, Christopher Abbott, among others. I really liked this movie, a period movie that I wasn't expecting, a musical that I wasn't expecting. I think it's a crying shame that Seyfried didn't get a Best Actress nomination and that this didn't get some original song and score nominations, maybe some production nominations. It got completely shut out. Not a great campaign that was run for this movie, but I loved it. It was up in my top 10 for the year. When you watched our best of the year episode, that was one of my honorable mentions before I got to my top 5. If you read my top 20 of the year, you know that it was squarely up in the top 10. I love this movie. Finally going wide. It's finally in theaters here. I hope it is in the theater where you are. I hope you get a chance to check it out. Criminally underrated. But that'll do it for me this week. I'll have more thoughts about the Oscars as we go along because we still got 2 months before the awards. Next week, we have a new release from Sam Raimi featuring Rachel McAdams. That should be a fun addition, as well as some other things that are dropping in limited release. One of the best animated film nominees, Arco, will finally open wide next week. I'll be looking at that film and also talking about my thoughts about the best animated films in the race. So something to look forward to next week. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm, and we'll see you at the movie.